What's up, guys? This is Brandon Choi, host and co-creator. Welcome to an edition of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. As you guys well know, this will be the first of special edition episodes that we are doing this week and next week for what I have coined as SDCC Peeps. So let me bring on our two guest hosts today. Give me one moment. Let me bring them on each at a time. First, we have Sean Forney. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Awesome, awesome. And let me also bring on Mr. Zahler. Tom, hello.
Hey.
All right. So for just to introduce the two guests that we have, as I said, Sean Forney. He is, has an extensive career, not just as a comic book artist, providing covers for various projects, but also as a colorist. Also have Thom Zahler here. Who you likely know his work from Love and Capes. However, he's also a letterist on a recent project, recent-ish project of The Underfoot as a letterer. So, gentlemen, welcome on. Thanks for being, the first folks of this special edition episode. As I said, guys, for those who didn't see the initial vid that I did prior. One of the cool things about San Diego Comic-Con is not obviously, while we have great programming and there's, great things, announcements that come out of it. One of the other cool things about it is the communal aspect and, being able to touch base and connect with a lot of, fellow like-minded people. So I hold Sean and Tom within that group of SDCC Peeps, where even outside of our normal normal commitments that we have, I enjoy connecting with them, hanging out when there's an opportunity to do that. So first, gentlemen, with all of that being said, can you? I'm trying to think. It's for each of you what that looked like in terms of thinking of when I met each of you. I feel so, Sean. I feel that I've only know you just maybe a couple of years because I know that it was 2019, 20. No. It was 2019. Yes, 2019. And it was initially at a Repop show. It was at C2E2. However, I know that you also we struck up a conversation because I know that we initially that you go to other cons and that you San Diego Comic-Con was one of those venues. So can you talk a little bit to that and just what your first Comic-Con experience was?
First Comic-Con experience. It was, I don't know, it was eye-opening in a way. Just walking in that place during setup and seeing how big the place was, seeing how much stuff was there that they don't actually capture on anything you watch on TV where they do the coverage. They only cover like this little tiny fraction of the show floor and whatnot. So being in there and just seeing the size, just getting the actual scope of how big it is, how much stuff's there, how many people they fit in there. It's just eye-opening, mind-blowing.
Definitely. And Tom, I know for you it's been even longer. So can you talk a bit about that? I feel like you've probably been going
I've been going for
as long as maybe I've been.
Yeah, this would have been my 26th year, I think. The first time I went was 1994. So the convention center was half the size. They hadn't built Hall D or anything past that yet. You could still walk up and get a ticket. Like getting hotels wasn't the Hunger Games type of thing that it is. I had friends who worked in comics, Tony Isabella and Bob Ingersoll. They brought me along, and they were kind of like my Virgil into the nine circles of hell that is San Diego. Um, and I love San Diego. I tried to make sure that I don't beat up on it too much because I think a lot of pros do. And if the worst part of my career is when I got to go out to San Diego for a week to talk about the thing I love doing more than anything else, that's not bad. I have friends who wear ties, but yeah, it was huge, and it was when I first started going, it was discoverable. Like you could go into a panel room and see something you hadn't seen, and now because it's gotten so big and so popular, I feel like you have to schedule everything. Like I don't see anything anymore. I'm just at the booth.
Cool, awesome. And this might not even be fair, but in considering talking about first times at this show, what would you say is perhaps your best memory, or maybe it's plural, maybe it's not fair to really say there's a singular one, maybe there have been a couple of them that come to mind for each of you.
Well, for me, there have been a lot. It's like picking your favorite kid. But the first year I had a booth, 2002, Mark Hamill stopped by the booth and had me do some drawing for him. And that was that 2002 is when I went from just attending the show and trying to get work to all of a sudden exhibiting it at the show, and that was a giant change. And like that, it was rough. I did caricatures for free to get people to come sit in line so I could tell them about the book that I did, which was great. But it was also me drawing for four and a half days straight. It's the kind of thing like I'm willing to do for my book, but I would not do it for anyone else's unless there was a lot more money involved. But that was when everything changed. That's when I went from, even though I was coming as a professional, that's when I went from professional to like exhibitor, and that was like everything changed at that point.
Definitely. Sean?
I've got several. I think one of the like most fun, the most grief I got from everybody else, because it's usually when we go out there, it's my wife, and we go with another couple that's our friends and their kid. And I think this was like the second or third year we were out there. So I'll say like maybe 2012, something like that. And I got sent back to the hotel room with all the con swag and exclusives and all that stuff that everybody else bought. So I was carrying the giant Hasbro bags that were seriously like 4 foot tall. Got one on each arm. They're full to the brim. Walking back to the hotel, go to get on the elevator, and I stood there waiting my time, waiting for the elevator to show up, and I turned to look next to me as who else was waiting on the elevator, and it's Kevin Smith. And everybody else that comes to get on the elevator wants to get a photo with him. And so I was like, well, heck, I'll shoot your photo so you don't have to try to do a selfie thing. So I shot a photo of the first person. Next person walks up, they get a photo. And then Kevin looks at me. He's like, you want one too? And I was like, yeah, what the heck, man? So I go over and get a photo with him. And then finally the elevator actually shows up, and the door opens, and all these people start coming into the elevator thing. And I'm like, hurry up, get on. He's like, nope. I'm going to stay here and start taking more selfies with everybody. And he did it. And, as soon as I got back to the room and I unloaded all that stuff, posted on Facebook, made my way back down to the convention, showed my wife and my buddy, and then the whole rest of the trip I was just, giving grief the entire time, because it's like, only me going back to the hotel runs into a celebrity.
And you know what? That's a perfect segue, because as we know, we're going to have a virtual edition, of Comic-Con. They coined it, Comic-Con at home, and those are what you guys are just discussing are things that are not going to be potential memories for someone who's returning or someone who's perhaps going for the first time. I know a couple of people that this would have been their first Comic-Con, so it's kind of a bummer for them that they wouldn't really be able to experience it in person. So with that being said, as figures that are in the comics industry, what does that look like now that it's more on the virtual side versus being able to to interact with people, one on one.
It's a different experience for sure. I've been part of one convention that went virtual this year when this whole thing like kicked off, and then as far as like how it's different for being on the artist side of the table and trying to connect with fans, things like that. I've been doing a lot of stuff through the live streaming, doing a lot of virtual stuff to where I can try to interact with the same group of folks that I would normally see at a convention like that, or hopefully meet and connect with new fans, things like that. So it's just trying to evolve with what the current situation is.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm not sure what it's going to be like. This will be my first virtual convention, and there's like an online exhibitor space. But for the most part, I feel like it's going to be how it is for all my friends who don't go to Comic Con. Because I remember like in the early 2000s when you go to the panel and you couldn't record anything, and like I would go home and tell my friends like 3PO telling the Ewoks the first two Star Wars films, and that was always a lot of fun because you had information they didn't, and you got to share it. And now all my friends in Ohio know what happens at Comic Con before I do, because it's on Twitter and it's posted. And like I could tell when the Justice League trailer went live, because you could hear it ripple through the convention center and people cheering and being upset, and I could tell what was going on with it, because the only parts were I take it back, it was Man of Steel, because the only parts that people cheered at were the Wonder Woman scenes. But you would just hear it kind of go through the show, and you realize that something had happened, and you were going to have to go online to find out. Like, we're no longer being behind a booth. You're no longer the person who finds the stuff out first. Like, I actually find out most of the stuff last. And I feel like with Comic-Con going virtual, it's going to be the experience of watching stuff happen. Unless, because right now I'm not on any panels. If I was on panels, I think it would be different, because then you would get that interactive part that Sean was talking about. But short of that, I think it's going to be like watching infomercials for stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say it will definitely be interesting because there are a lot of going back to the years that I've gone to Comic Con, not as extensive as you, Tom, but perhaps like half the amount of time, and there are memories that I still remember. Whether it was first coming as an attendee to now being in the media, of whether it's memories of being on the hall floor, whether it's memories of Hall H that you can't really replicate in a virtual capacity. Like, give me an example. I remember when no one knew what District 9 was. My first Comic-Con, I went to the world premiere of District 9, and Peter Jackson introduced it. I remember the secret, Avengers, related panel when they had the announcement. They had all the cast members come out. Like, I was there for that. When they were making the announcement about Batman versus Superman, even though we know what became of that at the time, it was pretty incredible. So it's going to be very fascinating to see, especially with the idea that I understand that a lot of the programming is going to be pre-recorded versus something that is like happening right live then and there, that you're not really going to get those spontaneous moments that are not really scripted. Obviously, the moderators and I'm sure the moderators go over the main points of what they're going to talk about and what's going to be shown, but there's still those spontaneous moments that really can't be determined until it actually happens right then there in the moment. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. And speaking further in discussing what the show virtually will look like for you guys, perhaps on the fan side, is there an element of it that you hope to see from what we're getting from this virtual edition, or more so than obviously the work commitments that you would normally have at the show?
It'll be interesting because I might be able to go to more things. I don't know.
Right.
Like the only panel I ever really got to see were my friends Brian Ward and Andrea Lentamendi do Star Wars versus Star Trek panel that I was on one year, and then but they do it at dark. It's called Comic-Con After Dark, so you could go to it after the show closed. If there are
Right.
panels like that I see that are less the produced, this is a movie that may or may not come out within the next 2 years, depending panels. Like the panels where there's some sort of open forum. I don't know if any of them will be taking questions from people, but even if they're not, if they're just being, a panel of people being interviewed, there's the potential for something to happen there. I don't know how just the Zoom format will be, because you do pick up an energy from the audience and the other people with you. But I would be more prone to try some of those panels, since those are the only way to get them. And there's less, like when I'm at Comic-Con, it's selling books, doing drawings, going out to dinner, and then sleeping, and then that's it. So it'll be a little easier to try to fit
Question
in.
mark.
Yeah. Yes. No, I pay a lot for that hotel room. I'm going to use it. But it'll be the kind of thing that I might be willing to try one of those panels in a way that I wouldn't have even had it on my radar at San Diego, because to even like when I was on a panel at San Diego, you almost had to leave yourself half an hour to get there, an hour to be on the panel, half an hour to get back. And it was just such a chunk out of your day that like you didn't want to go see anything else, or at least I didn't. So, something like Brian Andrea's panel, or there might be a couple panels like that I'd be willing to check out, because there's no real cost of admission. I can just put it on and watch it.
Yeah. How about you, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously have some very similar experiences to what Tom mentioned there, and like over the last few years, I haven't been able to do panels because I'm usually locked to the table. Like being an Artist Alley, they actually take attendance. They don't let you leave unless you're going for a bathroom break. They sit there and every so often come by and make sure you're at your table. So I haven't got to see anything like that. So I am looking forward to specifically there's a panel I think on Sunday that's I forget the title of it, but it's all the like great poster artists from all the movies for like the last few decades. So it's like Drew Struzan and Paul Shipper and this list of all these artists that have done all amazing poster and like cover artwork for movies and whatnot. I really wanted to see it last year. Didn't have the opportunity. I actually tried to bribe my wife to go watch it and get some highlights from it for me, and didn't happen. So like this year, at least I can watch it. I'm sure there's some other things like that I would enjoy. Just maybe even its background noise while I'm working on something else, just to listen to and just kind of get a little bit of that vibe. Because I'm sure, like most everybody else, we're all going to be kind of, a little down on, next week because, we will be missing everybody and everything that's going on. So it's at least get a little bit of that vibe, something that's, exciting, just kind of getting that feeling, I guess.
All right, awesome. And go ahead.
It'll be interesting to see if anyone takes advantage of the format. Like Apple Computer just had WWDC, and all their programs were pre-scripted, but as a result they could do things differently that you can't do when it's Comic-Con has that setup of a table, 6 chairs, microphones, where if you're not locked into that, can you do something more creative? I mean, not necessarily for the panels, because that's a good format for the panels, but if there's a movie release, are they going to be able to do things that they couldn't do if they were doing a Comic-Con? Will anyone try to shake it up? That could be really interesting.
Definitely. And I was going to say, I know you guys were, not only commenting on, we were just discussing like how it will look for you guys on your end and on the artist end. One facet that I know like is a big thing that you can kind of put in a, I guess, a subcategory of the communal aspect of Comic-Con is the networking component of it too. And obviously it's way easier to do that if you are, whether you're going to, like you said, Tom, sometimes you might, go to dinner with another contemporary, or perhaps you guys meet at a party, which I feel like you could dedicate. We could probably dedicate a whole episode to the Comic-Con parties, but I digress. what it, with that, and maybe I'm just assuming, with that possibly being, you know, a strategy that you have, and possibly doing like collaborations and that type of thing, do you feel that in the current landscape for you all, has it been easier in a weird way because, you know, folks are home and they're a little more, it's a little easier to reach them? Or would you say that there is still something to be said for you all to have that networking capacity, you know, at an event like Comic-Con?
Yeah, it's a little bit
No, go ahead,
of a different situation right now. Like in some respects, like you're saying with like the network thing, it's been a little bit tricky of like staying in touch with like projects and whatnot, as far as like being able to keep a schedule, because some stuff was shut down. Some of the folks I've worked with, you know, they were put out of work. So that's, you know, created its own issues, its own problems and whatnot. And then in other respects, it's like I've been so busy to like try to keep up with stuff because other, you know, ventures have popped up because of this whole situation, that it, you know, it's complete opposite, where it's like, okay, I, you know, got so much on my plate, it's kind of hard to, you know, try to get anything else going, and you know, it's almost like things are falling in my lap instead of trying to hunt them down. So it's kind of a weird give and take right now.
Yeah, I think that the casual networking will be there, and I don't know if anything's going to replace that. The part where you'd see people at a party and catch up with them, and that would help them remember you the next time they needed something. Because over the last few years, I feel like Comic-Con, like it felt like less deals were getting done there. It was more like you were making appointments to see people at another time. When, you know, because I've been doing it for so long, I felt like earlier you used to be able to get business done at Comic-Con, and then it became meeting people so you could make a schedule to meet them in LA after Comic-Con. And even that seems to have gone by the wayside, because as Comic-Con gets bigger, nobody wants to have personal interaction before or after the show, because they're so busy getting ready for it, and then they're just so burnt out that nobody wants to see anyone. Fortunately, like I have enough friends in LA that when I would do that, it would be, you know, you could trade on that and still be able to see them, but you weren't having, like, I got Love and Capes optioned at one point, and I, like, that meeting happened, the start of that happened at Comic-Con, it followed up in LA, and I feel like that happens a little less, at least for me. So I don't know what's going to replace that. And as far as the other networking, from right now, it's just keeping my head above water, trying to get everything done. I'm surprised that in this part where I'm not traveling anymore, that I still feel like I'm under the gun with all my deadlines. Like the work is just expanding to fill the space.
So I'll say definitely. So I guess, as I said, like, I want to, I'll close it off there, guys. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. Again, this is our first edition. It's been really fun. First edition of our special edition episodes for SDCC Peeps. Before I go, guys, you guys have a moment just to, you know, talk about where folks can find you. And I'll tell you what, Sean, go ahead. Go for it.
Okay. Twitter, Instagram, Twitch are all at Sean Forney Art, which is up on the screen there. My Facebook is Sean Forney Illustration. Website is just seanforney.com. And yeah, that should cover all my social media stuffs, and you can find other ways to get in touch with me through all that.
Awesome. Tom?
For me, I'm at Thom Zahler on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Love and Capes Volume 5 is now available for pre-order through stores. It's finally done. So you can do that, and you can find a bunch of my stuff on Webtoon, where a new episode of Cupid's Arrows goes up every Tuesday night.
All right, awesome. There you guys have it. So again, first edition of SDCC. There are more to come. Thank you guys for watching. Be safe out there. And as always, see you soon. Bye.